Janavalabha Girivanadari Gopi Janavalabha Girivanadari Yasho Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Ashwata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Okay, so reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, Text 19. Alrighty. Bhagavan Api Vishwa Atma Loka Veda Pata Anugaha Kaman Shisheve Dwarvacham Ashaktaha Shankyam Ashitaha Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Kaman Shisheve Dwarvacham Ashakta Shankyam Ashtitaha Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Kaman Shisheve Dwarvatvam Ashakta Shakyam Ashtitaha Bhagavanampi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Kaman Shisheve Dwarvatyam Ashakta Shakyam Ashtitaha Lokaveda Patanugaha
Bhagavan api Vishwatma Lokaveda Pathanugaha Kaman Shishe Dvarvatyam Asakta Sankhya Mastitaha
Sakta Sakyam Ashtitaha
Bhagavan api Vishwatma Lokaveda Pathanugaha Kaman Sisheve Dvarvatyam Sakta Sakyam Astitaha Bhagavan api Vishwatma Lokaveda Pathanugaha Kaman Sisheve Dvarvatyam Sakta Sankhya Masitaha
Sakyam Ashtitaha. Mataji's? Bhagavan Api Vishwatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Kaman Shisheve Dvarvatyam Ashakta Sakyam Ashtitaha Bhagavan Api Vishwatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Asakta Sakyam Ashtitaha. Okay, word for word translation. Bhagavan, personality of Godhead. Api, also. Vishva-atma, the super soul of the universe. Loka, customary. Veda, Vedic principles. Pata anugaha, follower of the path. Kaman, the necessities of life. Shisheve, enjoyed. Dwarvatam, in the city of Dwarka. Ashaktaha, without being attached. Shankyam, knowledge in Sankhya philosophy. Ashtitaha, being situated. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Simultaneously, the personality of God enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. While Maharaj Yudhisthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarka and was known as Dwarkadish. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions, because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment, and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely, as he willed, yet by his practical example, he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in Sankhya philosophy, is the real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of the human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of spirit soul is the human mission. Om Gana Timanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Munitamiya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Savitam Yena Bhutalai Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shakta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnamam Sha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganavtam Vitam Tam Shajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ritam Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikas Swami Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunivari Paskatash Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So, translation again. So, Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Patanugaha Kaman Sheve Dvarvatyam Ashakta Shankyam Ashtitaha. Simultaneously, the personality of God had enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. So, quick. Alrighty. So, this is continuing a description of, well, it's a further description of Krishna in Dwarka, of how he lived and what he did. And there's a lot of important points in this verse in Sanskrit and everything. One important point, which reading this, which stuck out to me, was that the principle of Krishna showing, how to live life and how to enjoy life, which is an important aspect, because as Krishna discusses in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that that there's pretty much that there's I forget the exact Sanskrit, but there's vikarma, and then there's karma, and then there's akarma, like that. So there's different duties. There's forbidden activities and stuff like that. So Krishna, when he comes down, he performs activities which, on the whole, generally, and that's also discussed. But he performs activities which, by following, we get benefited, and then those activities which we shouldn't follow, the Acharyas clearly demarcate that we shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that, and they make that very clear. Well, one of the things that we shouldn't follow that Krishna does is his rasa dance, and we see that people try to imitate that nowadays, and it's laughable. It's abominable and laughable, because Krishna, expanded himself, and the Acharyas give the correct understanding that he expanded himself into so many thousands of forms, and that that there was no mundane material lust or anything like that, and then it's him interacting with his own energies. But specifically in this verse, it's stating that Krishna showed his conforming to the Vedic customs. And there's a couple verses that I thought of immediately with this, and I'll just read through some of them. So there's a couple. This is in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna tells this verse to Arjuna, this yad yad archarishi streshas, explaining that whatever great men do, common men follow. And so he's explaining to Arjuna that if you go and you do this, if you go run to the forest and you neglect your duty and you don't fight, then people are going to cite you as an authority. that just see in this situation, it's okay not to do this because Arjuna did such a thing. So Krishna explains that that's not the case. So you shouldn't do that activity. And then he goes on to say, I'll just read some of these here. So na me partasi kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avapnatvam varta eva chakarmani. So, Onusana Prita, there is no works prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor I have any need to obtain anything, yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Now, I'm not going to read the purports for these because it takes too long, but we can see that that's kind of like highlighting a little bit about what's going on here. Krishna is explaining that he doesn't have any karma to perform. It's not that Krishna is a Kshatriya, so therefore he has to perform like Kshatriya Dharma, or in the beginning he was a Vaishya, so he has to do that. Krishna doesn't have to do any of these things. He's completely free. And even when any of the avatars that Krishna comes down in, it's not like he's obliged to like do a certain thing. He comes down as Matsya, so he has to act as a fish, or whatever. As Hayagriva, he has to act like a horse. Nrsingadev has to act like a half man, half lion. What's the dharma of a half man, half lion? Anyway, so it's like, Krishna doesn't have to do any of these. He's completely independent. But he makes the point, but yet still he engages in those things. And he goes on to explain here next, in the next verse. So, yadi yaham navarteyam jatu karaman yatandritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasaha. And then this last part is actually similar to another verse where Krishna explains that they surrender unto me. But anyways, for if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So he's explaining that he comes down and he engages in prescribed duties for everybody's benefit, because otherwise it's the same thing that, Krishna comes, and then people do that. They take, like we were talking earlier, Rasa Leela. They say, Krishna did Rasa Leela, so I'm going to do Rasa Leela. And then they take that and then they run with it. But in general, we can see this too also even in so many incarnations, but I was thinking a lot in in Ram Leela, that Lord Ramachandra does so many things and shows. And there's also a saying that I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say, that follow Ram and worship Krishna. Because a lot of the things that Ramachandra did, he showed how to perfectly live in a society. Krishna did also, but Ramachandra Bhagavan was more so, was not wanting to act outside those rules of Dharma, specifically following that, of being like the perfect king. And so we see, and then even, and that's cited, even, that's why people, they read Mahabharata, they read Srimad Bhagavatam, not why, but it shows how to behave in human society, to simple things, not that it's the highest religious principle is to be truthful. There are circumstances to lie, but it's better to be, in the worldly spirit, to be truthful than to be a flat-out liar. And so these sub-religious principles and things like that, they can be learned from studying the lives of Krishna and his incarnations, and also of great devotees. So Krishna says that there, and then let's see here, and then also he says in the verse after that. So, utsidye deyor ime loka na koryam karma chet aham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyam imam prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living entities. So the point is that if Krishna does it for our benefit, perform duties, then people would cite that and not do their duties, and then things would just become completely adharmic. And he's making the point here, at least to Arjuna, that by not doing one's duty, then Varna Sankara is generated, because Arjuna was citing in the beginning of the first chapter that if he were to do his duty and fight and kill, Bhishma, Dronacharya, and all the opposing fight, then all the men would be killed, and then Varna Sankara would run rampant, because the woman would be unprotected. But he's saying if you don't fight, like if he's saying if I don't do my dharma, then Varna Sankara is going to be generated. So then he defeats that, one of those arguments of Arjuna, another angle at that. So Krishna is showing here with his Dwarka Leela how to live a life in the material world, and at the same time make advancement of Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna's there's no question of Krishna becoming Krishna conscious. Krishna already Krishna is already perfect and complete. Purnam, what is it? Purna Purnamidam Purna Purnamidachite. So Krishna is complete and perfect, but he's showing us how we can become perfect and complete in his service. And so many incarnations like that. And let's see. And so it's another amazing aspect of this here is that it's mentioned, what is this? Bhagavan Api Vishvatma. So a lot can be said about that. But so anyways, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's the super soul of the universe. He's the controller of everything, Ishvara Parama Krishna. And what is this? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattat satvan aham sarvasya prabhavo mattat sarvam prabhajate. Anyways, what am I messing up there? Prabhajate, okay. But everything's coming from him, but yet, as we see here in this purport, he's following one aspect of it, following the Vedic customs. He was subservient to the ruler at that time, which was Maharaj Yudhisthira. It wasn't that he was, in the sense, just disregarding that. Maharaj Yudhisthira's in charge and this and that. And there might have been like taxes or something he had to pay. I don't really know all the Kshatriya Dharma and how an emperor rules and things. But there was probably some rules and things like that was expected for subordinate kings to follow. And Krishna followed those, as we see here, that he said, that he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira. So he followed that to show. Then also, too, Maharaj Yudhisthira is his devotee, and Krishna desires to be subordinate to his devotees out of love. And we also see, too, that on another angle at this, that when Krishna showed Arjuna the universal form, Arjuna began to apologize, saying, I called you, Yadu, this and that. I joked with you and things, and like, now I'm seeing, that, I don't even know who you are. It's just like, I made a big mistake. He's seeing the opulence of Krishna, the grandeur. And this way, this on reverence became in the forefront. And Arjuna's relationship with Krishna as a friend became more subsidiary to that. And so he was, in that sense, I don't want to say lamenting, but he was, anyways, apologizing. And he was a little nervous also. So Krishna here is teaching an important aspect. So leading a life of knowledge and detachment. And that is important in Krishna consciousness. But of course, detachment and knowledge in and of themselves isn't the goal in life, just to be detached and then to be in knowledge. And that's explained very much so in Srila Prabhupada's books. But there's a verse which highlights the point of knowledge and detachment. This is a famous verse. It says, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartha Mekaha Purusha Parana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sarira Dedari Kripam Bhudhir Yastvam Aham Prapadye. And so the translation is, let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and attachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet. So specifically here within this verse, I would say one of the main points is being that he's teaching, knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. So knowledge and detachment has to be set on the point of Krishna consciousness. And that's one of the main discussions in the Bhagavad Gita, is that, to be in Krishna consciousness, and then from that, then this knowledge and detachment comes. Because outside of Krishna consciousness, the Arjuna was thinking, well, I'll be detached, and then I'll not fight. But then Krishna was explaining, well, that's not proper, pretty much Krishna was explaining that, well, I want you to fight, and I want you to do this service for me. This is what I want. And so he's explaining like that. And that's some of the discussion in the Bhagavad Gita. So we have to understand what constitutes real knowledge. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport, pretty much that what constitutes real knowledge is fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul, which is the human mission of life. We have this human form of life, so tato brahman jignasa, to inquire into Brahman. To inquire into spirit, into Krishna consciousness. So that is the point of the human form of life, and to be detached from, worldly, sensual things. And then also subtle things too. We'll get a little bit more into that later. So Srila Prabhupada it's mentioned here, so Sankhya, so the Sankhya philosophy. That's a big subject also. I'll just read a couple things about that here. But so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 30. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, Sankhya philosophy is the basic principle of acquiring knowledge, as will be explained by sage Maitreya. The Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Kapila Dev, the son of Devahuti, is the real source of knowledge about the supreme truth. Knowledge not based on Sankhya philosophy is mental speculation and can yield no tangible profit. So Srila Prabhupada also explains much in his book that there was another Kapila Dev who gave an atheistic Sankhya philosophy. And so this next quote, this is from Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 31. So this is in the teachings of Kapila Dev. So Maitreya Vacha, Vitarartam Kapilo Matur Itam, Jata Sneho Yacha Tanva Bijataha, Tatvam Nayam Yat Pravadanti Shankyam, Pravacha Vai Bhakti Vitanyogam. So the translation is, Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila, could understand her purpose, and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of devotional service and mystic realization, as received by disciplic succession. So just kind of some more information of what Sankhya Yoga is, or system of philosophy. And then this is from the 8th canto, chapter 24, text 55. So this is Matsya Avatar pastime. So Puranam Sahitam Divyam Sankhya Yoga Kriyarvatam Tim Satyavratasya Rajarsher Atmaguyam Asheshataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead thus explained to King Satyavrata the spiritual science known as Sankhya Yoga, the science by which one distinguishes between matter and spirit, in other words, Bhakti Yoga, along with the instructions contained in the Puranas, the old histories, and the Samhitas. The Lord explained himself in all these literatures. So there's a couple of, a little more of what Sankhya philosophy is, but pretty much it's Krishna consciousness, but making a clear distinction between matter and spirit. And so that's important here, because if we don't make a clear distinction of matter and spirit, of what is Krishna consciousness or what is not Krishna consciousness. I mean, even if we don't make a clear distinction between matter and spirit, there's no question of becoming Krishna consciousness, because then we take everything as whatever. If we go to one extreme of just taking everything as matter, that's not good. And then we go to one extreme, which everything is spirit, but if we're not on that level and we don't understand properly the different distinctions of the Lord's energies, then we won't be able to be situated in Krishna consciousness properly if we're not on that level. Because then everything is spiritual. So then, then doing drugs, that's spiritual, or whatever. Or, walking in the forest, that's spiritual, or things like these are some, anyways. Little simple, but it's not just walking in the forest and doing drugs isn't spiritual in and of itself. So there has to be that connection with Krishna consciousness and direction given by the previous acharyas and the spiritual master. So the mission and the goal of life is to be Krishna conscious, and that is described by Krishna and shown by Krishna and his devotees, and that's the understanding in Vedic culture, because it's, and there's this verse, what is it? Nate vidu swarta gantami Vishnu. So people, they don't know the goal of life, they don't understand is Vishnu. They do so many other different things. But in Vedic culture, it's clear, at least when it's properly guided, that the goal of life is Krishna consciousness. And then there's kings and things and brahmanas to help administer that and to help make sure that that goal and focus is kept in line. And that those that may not be so focused in on that, they're still engaged for their benefit in the Vedic society at large. For instance, if by, the Brahmanas are there and then they need different, things for sacrifice, and the Vaishyas may give that in charity and help with that. So the Brahmanas can do their sacrifices, and then there may be like some distribution of prasadam, and then some talk also on the Brahmanas may explain different things, according to like the Puranas and histories and things, and how they can make spiritual advancement. And the whole Bhagavatam is centered on that basis, and we see that. Just like, for example, King Prachini Barishat was super attached doing sacrifices, and then Narada Muni came and explained, he was a saintly person, and King Prachini Barishat respected him and like that, and heard from him, and was able to receive proper knowledge, and then he was able to give up his fruit of activities, and then that culture was also there of going to the forest and renouncing and focusing in on Krishna consciousness. It was kind of like that understanding already there amongst those kings. It wasn't like some foreign concept or like something that has never been done before. There's like, for instance, if we went to Joe Biden and we say, now you're at the end of your life, you should just give up everything and like whatever, go to the Talladega Forest in Alabama and chant Hare Krishna and engage in renunciation. It'd be like a shocking thing. It'd be like, no one's ever done that before. Like what, and then it'd be like headline news, and it'd be a big thing, and it'd be like, he's living in the forest, and then maybe they would like, try to arrest him because it's illegal. It's just like, it's not there, and American culture. But in Vedic culture, those things were there, and it was understood, and then people, they followed previous authorities and things like that. And then it's another aspect too, that it's actually amazing because it shows us that these great kings, they renounced everything. From our perspective, they had something to renounce. I mean, when we renounce something, it's like, if we move into the temple or something, then it's like we may leave, our home. We're staying with our parents, and they were paying the rent and cooking all the food and giving us everything like that, and like whatever, washing our clothes or whatever. It's like we were living like mini kings. But then they had like thousands of servants, and then sometimes thousands of wives, and so many. They wake up in the morning, people are singing their glories like that. It's like the point. And then they felt like they were in control of something, emperor of the world. But then they gave all that up, and so that kind of shows us that if they can give up the planet, we can give up whatever. A little house and like that, not give up for the sake of Krishna consciousness. So that's also inspiring in that direction. So these kings were able to do that, and that culture was there. So then that shows that the goal of life isn't to become a king, isn't to eat nice food, it isn't to get an amazing job, the goal of life isn't to get married, but the goal of life is to become Krishna conscious, and that's the focus. And then so life was organized in such a way to where that focus was there, or that endeavor was there, and then all these these things which were below that were understood in that context. And that's important to know. It's to know and have that vision, that to understand that the goal of life isn't all these other things except becoming Krishna conscious. So that was kept in check. It was there, and it was these things were worked towards. But it was done in a regulated way, as Prabhupada makes the point in the purport. It wasn't just done, it wasn't a free-for-all. He says, let me see if I can find it exactly how he says it. But he says, so regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is a real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Because in one aspect, too much enjoyment is, overload of sense gratification. That can lead to a lot of things. That can lead to insanity. It can lead to, complete burnout. But too much sense enjoyment isn't good. And then if one isn't completely renounced and absolutely no sense gratification, that can also drive one crazy and take one to another extreme. So Krishna understanding that, creating the Vedic system, there's different people at different levels. So, okay, you need sense gratification. So you do it in a regulated way. You take as much as you need. Different orders of life, like it's expected Brahmanas to be more renounced than like Sudras. But it's according to where one is at, then, okay, you enjoy your senses in a humane way, but you still make advancement in Krishna consciousness. And so from our perspective, especially from the root, Krishna's showing, he's already on the perfect, Krishna's perfect, And he's showing, the perfection of this, but for us, it's for us to aspire for, in the sense that coming out of the material energy, the root that we have to become detached from the material energy and become attached to Krishna. And the best situation for that, of course, is Varnashram and Vedic culture, and assimilating that into our lives. And there's many different assets and facets of that. Vedic culture isn't just, there's a lot of ideas of what Vedic culture is in our society, and a lot of confusions about that. But some people think, I don't really know what some people think. I think some people think, I guess, Vedic culture is that, you get a thread and you're second initiated and you worship the deity, and that's about as far as that goes. And then, whatever, you make sure that you're clean when you go on the altar and things like that. But it's much more than just, it's a whole life, and it's a whole organization of society. It's within that, taking care of one's parents, respecting, seniors, like, for instance, another aspect of Vedic culture is that a householder, if some guest comes and, you feed them and, take care of them like that, that's respectable. Now that when a guest comes, it's like, oh, great, you're here. I was just about to, start chanting Hare Krishna and, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, then you came to my door. It's like, making someone feel unwanted. It's like, oh, Hare Krishna. It's that all those different aspects are there. And those things, they help us become Krishna conscious. Because I read in a book by Purnachandra Maharaj at one point, but he's making the point, and it's an interesting point, but he was saying how, if we come to Krishna consciousness and then we just reject everything, and we don't accept the Vedic culture, then, we don't accept any culture. Then we just whatever. We've voided that out, that we haven't accepted, any culture. But if we don't accept Vedic culture and we accept no culture, then generally people kind of fill that in with the previous culture. So we don't want to, in Krishna consciousness, take a lot of the, especially coming, if we have a background coming from Western worlds, like this American culture of, whatever. I remember growing up, for instance, at my friend's house, and also at my house too, our parents, if we were to come by, if we had different, foods and snacks or whatever that were a little bit expensive, we would hide those things. I wouldn't hide them, but the parents would, because then guest is coming and we don't want them to eat whatever the nice snacks that we have, so hide them. And then also too, because when my friend would come by, he would like to eat a lot, so then they would hide the good potato chips or something, because he's gonna eat them all. And so that's it's if your goal of life is to make money and to save money and just you're completely money conscious, then yeah, that's culturally acceptable, because you don't want to lose money. I mean, it's every penny counts. But in Vedic culture, it's not money conscious. The goal of life isn't to make money. The goal of life is to become Krishna consciousness, is to help others in that. And then that's there, welfare and stuff. But that's on a lower rung. It's not the goal of life. It's just to feed people and things like that. That was done naturally, in the sense, to help people to be, okay, you may not have, I may have more, you may have less, so let me give you something, and then you're satisfied, and then utilize this brain power that you have to, inquire into Krishna consciousness, or if you can't do that, then serve the brahmanas that are here, they'll speak something, help them out, like that. So we have to assimilate these different parts of Vedic culture in our life. They're saying there's no audio. So, and of course the best situation for that is Varnashram Dharma, Vedic culture. And there's a class by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, and the title of it is, but the title of it is that, I believe it's, let's see here, something along the lines of the culture that counteracts envy. So in the material world, it's understood that, well, that's an important point. But in the material world, everybody has envy of Krishna. To be in the material world means that for most people, except people like Srila Prabhupada and great Vaishnavacharyas, means that we did something wrong somewhere down the line. To have a material body pretty much is it's like a prison uniform. When you go in the jail and someone has a prison uniform, it's not, I'm innocent. I was, what am I supposed to be in here? It's in the material world, nobody's innocent. We all did something wrong. So the Vedic culture it's understood in the Shastra and things that, okay, you did something wrong, so here's the instructions on how to fix that. Here's how to come out of that. Here's how to become free from your sinful reactions. Here does it generate, pious activities, but just don't stop with this going up and going down in the material world. Get out of the material world, because the material world is a place of suffering. So these discussions are there. And this information is there. And of course, it's a gradual process. Some people may be, really fired up about going to heaven. So then, whatever, they may engage in sacrifices and trying to enjoy in this world, in this life, and then realize, well, it's not worth it. I'm trying to get a good wife, or trying to get a good son, and this and that, but I'm not satisfied. So, I heard something about heaven, let me go there. And then working hard to go to heaven. And then, okay, well, heaven's not all what it seems, because it's Indra just got kicked out. He disrespected the spiritual master. I didn't have nothing to do with that, but the demons took over somehow. Why am I trying to enjoy in the heavenly planets? Let me go somewhere else. Let me go Brahma Loka. I never heard anything about demons taking over there. But anyways, it's like this, and then realizing, and then hearing finally that, well, actually, the point of life is, remember, hearing all these talks about Vishnu. Yeah, I remember him being mentioned in those sacrifices. Oh, the point of life is to worship him. So kind of that's one path and one angle at it. But the quickest way, of course, is to take the Krishna consciousness fully in the beginning, instead of going around and around in this material world, taking the slow path. But that's there also in the Vedic culture, because it's understood that not everybody is fired up for going back to Godhead in this one life. So then, you're not fired up for that. So then follow this process, and gradually that desire will awaken in your heart. But going back to our situation, so sometimes there's different arguments and things. I don't want to get into a whole discussion of that. But you can be Krishna conscious, within this society, working a job and things like that. But it's more difficult. And it's more of a struggle. And flatly, anybody that's honest will tell you that it's more difficult and it's more of a struggle. And there's more risk there involved with that. And it's important to know that, because there may be people that try to discourage from trying to live on a farm and trying to establish Varna ashram, and in trying to develop that part of Srila Prabhupada's mission, and trying to develop that part of Prabhupada's desire. And they may say so many things that, well, we tried that. And it's the same thing. We tried that, it doesn't work, or it's impossible, and like that. And Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers also said the same thing, whatever. We tried that, some disciples went to Europe and it didn't work. They couldn't be, Westerners can't become Krishna conscious. If Lord Chaitanya wanted Krishna conscious spread all over the world, he would have done it himself. Maybe they'll say if Srila Prabhupada wanted Varnashram established, he would have done it himself, whatever. People may say so many different things, but we should understand, of course, and we have that understanding, that Srila Prabhupada wanted this Varnashram established. He wanted this Vedic culture established, and Krishna is also showing us he's living that life in Vedic culture. He's conforming to that for our benefit, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. So he's enjoying life in that way. And so, and Prabhupada, what does he also states here? Oh, he makes the point, without such knowledge, attachment, and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. So there may be some people that say like that, well, I'm Krishna conscious, and I'm not following Varnashram or this or that. They may say so many different things, but people that are honest will definitely say it's more of a struggle. And I don't want to get into all the different intricacies of that. But, there's so many things that come with that. Okay, you may be amazing and you may be Krishna conscious and you may be a Paramahamsa, working your job, but what about your family? What about your kids? They're going to the Karmi school, they're getting bad association. Are they Paramahamsas also? So the establishment of Varnashram is for society at large. It's for the devotees, of course, to keep us safe and keep us protected. Because the thing is that, if we follow the Vedic culture and, we're living in this world, minimizing entanglement and keeping the focus on Krishna, then naturally living in that environment will be more mode of goodness. Because if you're living in a society of animals, then you'll take that animalistic tendency in. And
There's so many examples of that. But so the main thing is that we have to establish this Varnashram Dharma, this Vedic culture. We have to assimilate that into our lives and take that seriously. Because otherwise, if we don't take that seriously, if we're not pushing that Vedic culture, if we're not pushing and fighting in that way or trying to make that change, then what will happen is it's osmosis. Osmosis refers to water, but it also refers to an unconscious assimilation of ideas. So being in the materialistic society, if we're not taking those principles to heart, then we'll take in unconsciously the different principles of the society, whatever it is around us. And then that'll come out in Krishna consciousness, which we've seen and we've heard of. And then there'll be different things like that and different arguments and points made that, such as to establish Krishna consciousness in the West, then you need to have gender equality. What Srila Prabhupada didn't teach at all, that is a contamination. And then all these things, Bhakti-Vikas Maharaj speaks on these points very much so. So we have to change this current, and we have to push in our lives and in the world. And we have to have strong principles, being versed in Shastra and having faith and hearing regularly from the spiritual master. Hearing is very important, actually, in spiritual life. I was reading a verse yesterday in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can pull it up if you want, but it's, I believe it's Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 155. But it's, the point is made that pretty much, anyways, you can bring it up, because I'll just read it verbatim. But, so, 19, it's a nice verse, actually. I was thinking about that a lot yesterday. Yeah, right there. You just click it. I won't read the purport, but it's a nice purport also. So just go to the translation. So Lord Chaitanya is explaining to Rupa Goswami that the creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. So Prabhupada makes a point in the purport that we're regularly, that one doesn't give up the process of hearing and chanting. It's not that one thinks, I become a mature devotee, so therefore, no more hearing and chanting. Bye-bye Bhagavad Gita, bye-bye Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm a senior devotee, as you read that poem the other day. Maharaj doesn't make that point, but it's, anyways, sometimes we see that too, that people are senior devotees and then they gloat about how they haven't read Prabhupada's books and millenniums, as if that's something to be proud of, that you haven't read your spiritual master's books, whatever, in over 40 years or something. So we have to regularly hear the message of the Shastra. We have to regularly hear from the spiritual master. We shouldn't get to a point in our lives where we stop hearing and we stop chanting. That's not good. So we have to regularly hear and we have to regularly chant. And we have to push in this material world. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I might skip over some of these points. I'll just skip over these. So you can pull up if you want. Anyways, I guess you don't have to pull up. Anyways, I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 9 and 10. You can just get into the index of that. I guess this is just important to note. But anyways, so Krishna makes the point in the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just read that here. So, Trigunya Vishayaveda, Nishtrigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvando Nityasatvosto, Niryoga Shema Atmavan. So Krishna says, the Vedas deal mainly with the subjects of three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So this is kind of like a side point. So this Krishna is explaining here about enjoying life according to the Vedic customs. And so that's there in a regulated way. But Krishna also explains to Arjuna that, and the verse previous to that. So anyways, he explains that. But he pretty much makes the point that, the Vedas, they talk about enjoying and things like that, but rise above those. And so there may be a stage in, maybe our lives or other lives, which becoming, maybe overly, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe blinded by sense gratification a little bit too much. And we see that sometimes in devotees' lives, that they're practicing Krishna consciousness, but then Krishna consciousness kind of goes to the background and sense gratification comes to the foreground. And so we should be wary of that, and we should also be wary too of enjoying in a Krishna conscious, let me take that back, of enjoying in a Vedic way. Srila Prabhupada makes the point that even on the royal roads, that there may be accidents. He makes that point in the 3rd canto. And so this is important in the sense that, coming out of the material world and trying to regulate ourselves, regulate sense gratification, things like that, that also ultimately has to be given up. As Krishna is making the point here, detachment and knowledge, keeping the goal of life and keeping, working in that direction. And so the thing is that for us, because sometimes it's argued, and this is important also to note, we can enjoy and things like that. And one thing that's commonly cited is that that people say, well, Srila Prabhupada, he said different things about sex life within marriage and this and that, and that there's higher principles and lower principles, and whatever you do is okay. And I don't want to get so much into that right now, but what Srila Prabhupada explained was that sex life for procreation, that is the standard, and we can understand that in the sense that there may be different levels of that within Shastra. But if we analyze this verse here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives a perspective of how we follow the teachings in Varnashram and Vedic culture, at least for us, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So, Dharmasya yapravargasya nato ratayo pakopate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamo labaya hismritaha. And then the next verse also. So all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be prepared for performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to the sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. And then the next verse, Kamasya nindriya pritir labo jive yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yaschaya karma bihi. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So for us, especially taking initiation into the parampara, in pure devotional service, our standard should always be the highest standard. As aspiring Vaishnavas, not that we shouldn't I'm aspiring for the topmost perfection, so therefore like this lower standard that's okay for me. We should always be aspiring for the highest standard in Krishna consciousness, and working towards that, or at least having that goal in mind. Okay, well I'm here, but this is where I need to be. Not that, okay, well I'm here and that's okay, and there's it's okay to be attached and things like that, and that's totally fine, and there's no problem with that, and I can be 60% Krishna conscious and go back home back to Godhead or whatever, making all these different excuses. We should always be striving towards the highest platform, and so we can see here in Shastra it shows that that everything that should be done for ultimate liberation, and that is, of course, to become Krishna conscious, to go back home, back to Godhead. Not that what we're doing engagements, we're doing services just for material gain. That's not the process for aspiring Vaishnavas. Let's see here. So, and anyways, and then we're not, anyways, makes the point again, material gain. So not that the aim of everything, I'm doing all these different things, I'm doing all this service, and then what's the goal of it? The goal of it is that I just enjoy my senses. That's not the be all and end all. As Prabhupada's making the point in the purport, that fulfilling the demands of the body's animal life and fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul is the human mission. So becoming Krishna conscious is the focus. So we have to keep the focus on Krishna consciousness, on the highest dharma, which is to become Krishna conscious. And these verses also give in perspective too, because there's other things in other shastras and things like that, which one one reads and one can get confused. For instance, there's things mentioned in Shastra, so that the morning should be used for Dharma, the mid part of the day should be used for Artha, making money like that, acquiring gain, and then the evenings for Kama, for sense gratification. And this is how you split the day. And this is Shastric. But for us, the whole day is meant for Krishna. It's not that we do some dharmic activities in the morning, and then we go out in the day and distribute books and make money, and then in the evening we come back and we just enjoy like everything, or whatever. And generally, sense gratification is, you can use your imagination like that. And then also in other shastras too, it's made the point, I don't know exactly if it's the Manu Samhita or what, but it's mentioned that of all the ashrams, Grihasta's ashram's the best, because Grihasta ashram's the best because, anyways, one reason they give is because you make money and then you support the other ashram. So therefore the sannyas, vanaprastha, and brahmacharya ashram are dependent on the Grihasta ashram. So therefore they're the best. But anyways, it's explained that that's not the case at all, and then there's different verses in the Bhagavatam which state otherwise, that like that. Of course, the best generally the best ashram is the ashrams of enunciation, because one can focus more easily on Krishna. But if one isn't on that level, then that's obviously a problem. But it's understood that if one is in that ashram, then that's the ashram that one's supposed to be in. But generally, there's a progression of that. But anyways, that's a general point. Most of the time, that's the case. But the point is to be Krishna conscious, and generally those things help. Because if you're like, for instance, now if you have to go work a job and deal with karmis all day and things like that, and you don't get any time to read Srimad Bhagavatam, then that's probably not the best situation to be in for Krishna consciousness. But if one is renounced and able to be full time and to live in the temple and to go out and preach, distribute books, and all those things full time, then that's obviously a better situation for Krishna consciousness. Anyways, the main point is that the focus should be there, and we shouldn't lose the thread of Krishna consciousness. And that can manifest in different ways. Rupa Goswami explains this, things that are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. So in all spheres, that focus has to be there, no matter what one's situation is. Not that one was a brahmachari and then a grihasta and then completely forgot about Krishna consciousness and forgot Krishna's names, or whatever it is, or in the sannyasa ashram. Whatever one's situation, one has to keep the focus and keep the thread of Krishna consciousness. And no matter if one is a big devotee or small devotee or whatever, or well-known in the society or not well-known in the society, the process more or less is the same for everybody, of reading and of chanting, taking prasadam, going to the morning program. All these different things are there. They're important. And we do those things regularly, and we may take it for granted and not understand actually how valuable this process of Krishna consciousness is. But if we're outside of that for a little bit, we can get some more appreciation for the devotees or for the process of Krishna consciousness, and be more thankful for that, and not just take it for granted, or or whatever. Take it as that this is whatever what's what I'm looking for. But this is my right, my like that I deserve this or something. It's all Krishna's mercy. To be able to be in a situation to which to follow Krishna consciousness seriously, or to be in a situation where Krishna consciousness is being practiced seriously, but then it's up to us to actually follow seriously, because that initiative has to come from our side, because full opportunity may be there, but we may not take it to heart actually, or take it so seriously. So we have to rise to the occasion and take it seriously, and utilize that association and that situation that we're in to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, but also to help others and to serve the Vaishnavas, and to fulfill the mission of human life, which is to become Krishna conscious. And so anyways, all these different things tie in together. We have to follow all these things and practice, but at the same time we have to push on this Vedic culture. And then also to kind of just ending now, but the devotees that went to Europe yesterday gave they shared their experiences in Europe and like that, and some of the experiences they had, and then some of the things they learned from the different communities that were trying to establish Varnashram. And there's a lot of things that can be said. I think one important aspect of Varnashram, of course, is the aspect of future generations getting the opportunity to become Krishna conscious, of the children getting the opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness from a young age. There's very many different aspects of Srila Prabhupada's missions. Prabhupada wanted scientific preaching, Prabhupada wanted books written, Prabhupada wanted books distributed, Prabhupada wanted gurukuls, Prabhupada wanted restaurants. There's so many different things that Srila Prabhupada wanted. But anyways, at least for me personally, I personally think that it's super important, actually, the education of the children that come and take birth in this movement to become Krishna conscious. Because the thing is, at least for me, I went to a Karmi school, and Karmi school, let me take that back. And it was a horrible experience. And I was in that Karmi school, for so many years. And so much bad association I got, so many bad things I learned. So at least for me, when, I think like, I don't want anybody else to go through that. So that's kind of like enough inspiration for me to kind of like want to help, at least with the gurukuls and stuff like that, and try to help, devotee kids that come, so they don't have to go through that bad association. I went through that. I don't know how many years I went through that. Probably like at least like 12 years, 13 years. So, yeah. And so hearing about that was very inspiring. And then just hearing too all the different devotees that they pushed on in the movement, and then they transitioned into the to the farm, and they were able to be Krishna conscious, and then most of their kids became Krishna conscious, and then they're able to teach them in a Krishna conscious way. And then also too, just the development of that, just the community at large. Because also we grow in Krishna consciousness if we stick around for some time. And then we also grow as a community also, And then so they hear about that community growing, and then it is nice in many different things. I remember when, Gauramani? Was that his name? Gauramani Prabhu? He was telling that when we were here, and you mentioned a little bit about that. But then they have their college that they've established. That was really nice to hear, actually, that they have this established, and then they're teaching people. And it's just like they have like very many different outlets by which people, the general public, they can, practice Krishna consciousness. And they can, get some appreciation. Because that's the beginning, more or less, is that, people, they see the devotees, and they take prasadam, and they think that this is nice, and then they get an opportunity to participate. And that leaves a positive samskar. But then also, then distributing prasadam, that's also very nice, and these are things that Prabhupada wanted. But it's just nice to hear of a community that's developing in that way, and developing nicely. And of course, as Vishachyuta Prabhu was relaying, and that's not the focus anyway. But then that's also, there's things there that aren't perfect, but they're inspired, and they're trying to work in that direction. And anybody also, too, there may be things that are not perfect, but one who is also sincere, there may be some lackings, there may be some faults, just like we look up in the moon at night, there's some spots in the moon, but they say, anyways, they don't give so much importance to that, because sometimes we can get overly focused on some small little defect, which may not actually be such a big problem. And then that also may affect our Krishna consciousness. We may leave Krishna consciousness just due to some stupid little small thing, which may not be a big deal. That, this devotee said this to me, or this devotee had an attitude with me, or this devotee treated me improperly, so therefore, I'm going to, give up on Krishna consciousness or whatever. I'm going to, like that. That's not proper. So so all these different aspects of that, but it was nice to hear that and see, and it's also nice to see that devotees that that they because the thing is that for preaching at large, like one devotee was telling me that, and no problem to that, but he was saying he's getting married and things like that, and he's going to show for preaching he's getting married and show how to be a householder and stuff like that. But anyways, his situation really isn't all that Krishna conscious. But the thing is that this shows how to be fully Krishna conscious. Okay, that you have a family, you can still be fully Krishna conscious. You can be in a Krishna conscious environment. You can have the Krishna conscious culture. There may be lackings and things like that, but it's overall, the platform is conducive for Krishna consciousness. And there's so many benefits to that. And we see that also, that devotees I've heard also in Nandagram, the devotees that they left the city and things like that, and they're happy there, pushing in that direction. And devotees that do that are generally happy. And it is definitely difficult. But the thing is that those difficulties are taken for future generations. And so anyways, it was nice to hear all those things like that. I appreciated hearing that and seeing some of the pictures and things. But anyways, this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to join and to stay in Krishna consciousness, and he also wanted the kids to become Krishna conscious. Because in the past there was different problems and things with that. Because otherwise, anyways, not that there's a problem with that. Prabhupada wanted that also for the devotees to, I'd have to look more into it, but Prabhupada wanted the kids to go to Gurukul, but they weren't able to do it for different reasons, like in America, and they had to close the other one in Dallas. So anyways, they opened one in Mayapur and Vrindavan, and then they sent the kids off there. But it just seems to me that, and I think that's also practical, that to develop those communities all over the world is better in the long term than to just send all the kids that one has to Mayapur and Vrindavan. I think that's good, and Prabhupada wanted that. But I think the larger picture, it's good to have like those communities established, because if you're going to live without electricity and stuff like that, then how are you going to send all the kids to like Mayapur? And then also too, then it's natural that kids are there to help with the farm work and things like that, and to learn things and stuff, all that stuff there. Otherwise, Mayapur and Vrindavan has like 20,000, hundreds of thousands of kids sent all over the world to learn. Some kids are there, but anyways, that's a big subject. But I think in the long term, that's needed. So it's nice to see those communities doing that and pushing that forward and trying to develop that. And that is very important. And so when I hear things about, that we don't need to establish Varna Ashram or all these different things like that, I think these things will fade away as these programs become more and more successful. America had some programs that weren't so successful, and there's reasons for that. But just because, there's some defect or something or some problem happened doesn't mean you just throw the whole thing out altogether. So that still needs to be pushed on and like that. And so it was inspiring to hear all those things and to hear about those devotees. And it would have been nice to, anyways, you all got the experience to meet them and actually like see that and to talk with them and all, how they're doing and all that. That would have been really ecstatic. And then also, and then check that's nice and things. But anyways, I think I'm glad that, anyways, I'm nobody. But it's really amazing that, you went out there and you all did that to learn and to help push that forward and to, serve Guru Maharaj in that way. And it's really great and it's really important. And it's much needed because to establish that, as Saroja Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda Maharaj always sometimes cite that, it's the Krishna tube, which, you bring people in and then they go out. And so to have this structure there that they can come and stay in the temple and learn, and then they can practice Krishna consciousness within a Krishna conscious setting is very vital and it's needed for the growth of a community. You can have a community which they go out and they get a job and they live across the street from the temple and they come on Sunday if they have a job that permits that. But the best thing is to develop this and to show an alternative way of life, which the center is on Krishna, which the center is on. There's so many things. This cow culture, this respecting, guests, Vaishnavas, parents, all these different things of growing food, living on the land, of reading Bhagavad Gita and then seeing, the examples that the acharyas are talking about within the land. It's like you're directly connected, and then we're even more fortunate because we have, the teachings of a pure devotee, so that all these different things that we're doing, they can be they can be directly pure devotional service. Growing food and cooking and offering to the deity, that whole process can be pure devotional service because it's connected to Krishna instead of just being, pious. It can be pure devotional service. You can go back, come back to Godhead, by, living off the land, pushing on this mission of Srila Prabhupada, educating, these kids that are coming, Prabhupada said, with these kids are not ordinary children. They were devotees in their previous life, of educating them and of serving them. They're Vaishnavas, of raising a family, all these different things. By pushing on this mission, you can become fully Krishna conscious. And it's actually amazing. It's a very great and grand opportunity. And of course, chanting Hare Krishna. You can be out in the fields working, chanting Hare Krishna. As we joke sometimes, singing the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can do all those things. You also become renounced. You can follow the full thing. I was just thinking the other day that if someone wants to become renounced in the city, if they don't have their house paid off, then they still have to work, or pay rent. I want to become fully renounced. I'm 70. I know one, actually it's unfortunate, I've heard of one devotee like that. He's, Prabhupada disciple, older, but he has to keep working because he has to pay, he has to pay rent. So he's not able to fully renounce in that sense. But anyways, if you're living on the farm, and anyways, that's a whole discussion as the time goes on. There may be need for renunciation there also. And then that'd probably be more natural, eating simply and things like that, and whatever, living separate from the wife and the kids and stuff, or maybe traveling or whatever. That's down the line. But you can be fully Krishna conscious. It can be pure devotional service. And it doesn't have to be like a whole mental trip about it. But anyways, it's an important aspect of Srila Prabhupada's mission. And I wanted to say a couple things about that, whatever little things I knew. And so Krishna's showing that, of living, enjoying life in the city of Dwarka, conforming to the Vedic customs of society, and while simultaneously cultivating knowledge and detachment, which as he showed, meditating on himself, which he's the goal of life. So we can try to follow that and set up a situation like that as much as possible. So, anyways, it's not a one-man effort. It takes a whole community. And so anyways, I think you all are inspired in that way. I'm trying to get inspired. So anyways, that's all I have to say. If there's any questions or comments about anything.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can ask your question.
I was just curious, in the case of Lord Nityananda's wife, I've heard she gave initiation. Obviously, she's qualified to do so, but I'm sure there was also qualified men in the region at the time. So why in her particular circumstance did she follow through? I know there's great personality women over in the lineage of Vaishnavism, and they generally would pass those kind of things off. Why did she choose to, give initiation? Is the reason given, or?
I don't know. You can say. Thank you.
Because the qualification for a woman to give initiation is not if there are no qualified men present. That's the mistaken premise on which this question is being asked.
Yeah.
The mistaken premise is because there is a letter Srila Prabhupada where he says women can give class when there are no qualified men present. This is completely different to giving Diksha initiation.
Yeah.
For giving initiation, if you want to understand what are the qualifications for a woman, please read Bharadwaja Samhita. There's a book that's available in our library, and there's a very detailed analysis on this. But in summary, Prakshayapatmika Nathanam, that a woman who has reached the stage of bhava, who is able to see Krishna face to face, is qualified to give initiation. And it is rare because most women don't do that, but it is allowed. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to happen at a time when there are no qualified men present. But it just means that they have to be on the stage of bhava. And because that is in general very rare, and then it's now it's general to find devotees who are on the level of bhava, because they don't reveal themselves as it is. Okay. Now, among those rare devotees, you are now focusing on the female gender. So that makes it even fewer. And among those,
Yeah.
who's going to choose to actually do that? Again, because they're on the level of bhava and prema, it doesn't necessarily happen because of logic, but it happens because of Krishna's desire.
Yeah.
It's not a platform of logic at that point anymore, not material logic. They are qualified, period. And if Krishna wants them to do it, they will do it. There are very specific qualities of a person who is on bhava. Again, for more information, please read the commentary on Bharadwaja Samhita. That's the answer in essence.
Perfect answer. Thank you.
Okay, Janardhan, Krishna Prabhu, you had a question?
Yeah. Kalki Prabhu, you were speaking about your experience in Karmi school and about how you went through that and you were like, yeah, I don't want anybody else to go through this experience that I had, especially those children born in devotee families. But you also hear the flip side of that, of people that went to a Gurukul and had a really bad experience. And what they tell you is that, oh, I went through this in Gurukul, so I'm not going to send my children there to go through that same experience. What would you say to those people, and how can we convince people that this Gurukul system actually works and it's what we should do?
Yeah. That's a big subject. One aspect too is that, I know a couple devotees like that. One important thing is that even if, so it's kind of important to note, I think, well, before I say anything, most of the time people that kind of have this perception, it's really like an emotional, like strong feeling, and it's not, they really won't change no matter like what you say or kind of how you speak about it. But just from what people may have had devotees may have had a bad experience going in Gurukul and so many bad things, so therefore they want to send their kids to a Karmi school. But it's not that just, and this is important also, it's not that just by sending kids to a Karmi school that's the solution, because also horrible things happen to kids at Karmi schools also. It's not that it's just free from, whatever. This, unfortunately, some of the things that happen at the Gurukul are bad, and it's not expected that people would do such a thing in those positions. But realistically speaking, such things also happen in Karmi schools, and that's becoming more and more prevalent. Anyways, I don't want to get so much into that, but there's like cases of, both men and women, of seducing like their students and having sex with them and stuff. But the main thing is that those faults may be there, but even within that situation, there still was an opportunity to like practice Krishna consciousness and to learn Krishna consciousness and have that full engagement. And and then you kind of get down an argument. Well, what's better? Anyways, there's gonna be so many things that can be said about that. But it would have been better to like not know Krishna consciousness and all and just gone to a Karmi school. But I think that even amongst, like I was saying in the beginning, there may have been faults there may have been so many setbacks, but the order of the spiritual master is there, and we have to keep pushing that forward, and we have to learn from our mistakes, and we have to ensure that such things don't happen again. And you kind of do something, and then you learn that, okay, whatever, we did such and such thing that wasn't good, so therefore like do this thing now. Or like we put this person in that position, that person wasn't qualified, so therefore now we know like we need somebody like seriously qualified in that position. It's not just like whoever wants to do it can like go and do it. So all those different things have to be there. But the essence of Gurukul and of Krishna conscious education is to develop the child's Krishna consciousness, but then also to have the child to develop faith in the Guru and Krishna. And that was that Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir. That verse is the essence of Gurukul. So just like for a bad experience that happens on book distribution or whatever, or a group of devotees, so therefore no more book distribution ever. We can't just throw off the process of Krishna consciousness just because something bad happens, you know. We may go through that situation, and it may be tough, and it may be difficult, and it may happen to somebody we know, or it may happen to us, but we have to kind of, you know, move beyond that. And it's difficult, but we have to, you know, and I'm also preaching to myself, but we have to internalize that, and we have to be Krishna conscious about it and understand, you know, and this is difficult to hear and accept, and people won't like it, but it's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But we have to understand that such a thing may have happened to me for a reason. For what I don't know, I may have done something in my previous life. So therefore, like, you know, I have to accept this as my karma or whatever, or purification, and then move beyond that and be Krishna conscious about it, and just keep going forward on in Krishna consciousness, and not hold on to or try to let go of these negative, you know, feelings and blockages that I have in my consciousness. It's may not be the most empathetic answer, but we have to, coming in contact with this philosophy of Krishna consciousness and this knowledge and this experience, we have to apply that and rise above it. We can't just, you know, be angry and blame everybody for that. You know, we have to establish these things for the benefit of society and show the proper example. So that's kind of one answer. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So, should the Krishna consciousness movement give only the facility for those who are ready for pure devotional service, or should it also give, you know, those who are not yet ready, who need some gradual purification?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely do that already. For instance, it's, you know, we invite people to come and stay in the temple, which, you know, they're not so fired up about pure devotional service. And so we give facility for that. You know, we do Rath Yatras for the public. They're not, you know, ready for pure devotional service. And we give facility. And that's the one aspect of preaching, is that people aren't interested in Krishna consciousness, so we try to generate that interest. So that's one aspect of the Krishna consciousness movement. We, you know, to people that aren't fired up or whatever, we give facility for them to become fired up. So, yeah. Anyways, running a little late. I don't know, you have a question? Okay. Probably stop there. So, all right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.